Listen to that piano. Hello, everyone. Did you know there are new comic books coming out this week? I sure did. Hello, this is your friend Carlz with a bunch of comic book recommendations for this week. Yo, um, gotta mention that the world right now is fucking crazy, and it's kind of like I don't know. I'm not the one to criticize escapism or however you wanna call it, but man, surely we need it though, right? Surely we need it. I mean, you choose your poison. No, that is not the same. Choose your poison. Choose your I don't know, but choose whatever helps you to escape the overwhelming reality we all live in. Some of us more than others, but we all have our shares. Anyways, if you are like me, escaping into fantastic world of heroes and bright colors and good stories, I gotta just go right into it. So, anyways, news. The news recently, I'm not sure when I saw it. I saw it on Marvel's Instagram. Apparently, after months and months and months of many of us not necessarily complaining, but yeah, wondering why is the Ultimate Universe ending when it's supposed to be doing so good. So apparently it's not gonna end. Marvel announced it's called Reborn. I think the full name is Reborn Ultimate Impact, and it's sort of like a legacy of they announced it like a legacy of the Ultimate Universe. We are not really clear what it means, but it's coming on May this year. And of course, we all know that the current run of the Ultimate Universe, I call it a run, but the current Ultimate Universe is ending in Ultimate Endgame. So, what does this mean? We will have to stay tuned for more news. We don't know if this is new books. I don't know if it's just a one shot. Like we don't know. We don't know to this day, and well, we probably will be knowing soon enough. At least the closer we get to the end of the current universe, Ultimate Universe. To me, this smells a lot like, hey, did you hear that the guys next door are doing super well with a thing called Absolute Universe? Which, by the way, gotta drop a little tiny mention to this is KO issue 3. It's been a while since a comic book gave me the chills, and the end of this is KO issue number. I think the last one is 3. I think I'm pretty sure. I don't have my thingy with me, but it has been a while since a comic book straight up gave me the chills with just this last, I don't know, man. You gotta read it. You gotta read. I didn't thought that what happened at the end of this is KO, the latest issue, was gonna be that soon, but it did. So, anyways, Ultimate Universe is somewhere coming back. We'll wait to see what's it's all about. I don't know. Will I would sorry that woo woo. Would I like the Ultimate Universe to be permanent? Hmm. I don't know. I think for some reason the Absolute Universe, and of course I'm using both universes as comparison points between Marvel and DC. Uh, I'm not sure if I feel like it's too overwhelming. For some reason, the Absolute Universe at DC feels like this outlier thing, right? This, even though it's great, even though it's impactful, it feels like it's just like a small thing. That's what I feel about it. So you can still have all the same shit going on in the big universe, CSKO, Darkseid, and everything. And it feels like the Absolute Universe is a tiny corner maybe it's because it feels fresh, and it does feel like um like a refresh, as I've said in many instances before, like a refresh of base um, ideas of those characters, like a sort of soft reset. And how one of the best things about it is how it's been able to capture many of these characters' essences. But anyways, we'll see what happens with this ultimate impact. Of course, we gotta see first what happens in Ultimate Endgame, right? But anyways, let's go to this week's recommendations slash whoop. Man, what's going on with my mouse? It double clicks. So first we have the Amazing Spider-Man annual, introducing a new speedster, what is called, I had it written down somewhere. It has a weird ass name, Rapid. So a couple of things about this Spider-Man annual. The Amazing Spider-Man, as I said before in many commentaries on that book, it's been great. The whole Norman and Peter sort of parallel storylines, both dealing with not only what it means to be Spider-Man, but what both of these characters are doing in this instance, where you have kind of like a split character and kind of like a metaphorical idea of Spider-Man. So apparently this is a little bit outside of it, and I don't know. I don't know why I feel like super curious about this. I don't think it's gonna have that many connections or repercussions to the current storyline, which, by the way, Peter is supposed to be coming back to Earth soon enough. So I guess my main thing with this is that I think there are no good speedsters in Marvel. Like, even if Quicksilver has had his moments, and like, I don't know, the main thing he does is like he is kind of like an asshole, right? That's kind of like his main personality trait. But I think it's honest curiosity how DC has so many fun, good speedsters, and Marvel has like none. Marvel speedsters, like, they aren't even there, and for some reason they never sort of pushed that straight up. It would be kind of like a straight up ripoff of making their speedster into like time traveling, reality warping, like the Flash. You know, I think that's a really intentional thing they do. But anyways, count me as a mere basic curiosity peak about this new speedster, and somebody might tell me like, oh yeah, but that guy appeared before. Like, hey, I didn't hear about it. To me, Marvel's best speedster was the guy from the what was the name of that book with the Spider-Man foes, the Mighty Foes, where you had like the Boomerang and like all of those crappy bad guys from Spider-Man, and they would band together and do the super funny shit. That was a bad speedster. But yeah, Marvel doesn't have like really engaging and fun speedsters. So let's see what they do with this one. The suit already looks like some like Marvel Cinematic Universe nonsense, right? I don't know. Speedsters, Marvel, curiosity. 5 minutes to spare. There you go. Next. So, I mentioned Bug Wars from Jason Aaron before, and we are kind of like in a supposed break. Supposedly, this story is gonna continue. When they say, right? They said it was gonna continue, and I don't want to spoil the end of the first story of Bug Wars, but the ending was kind of like a really conclusive. I didn't expect it to be that conclusive. I really didn't, and I don't know how they're gonna continue it. But as I said in probably more than one occasion that I mentioned Bug Wars by Jason Aaron, is fantastic. It has this kind of like Conan the Barbarian, these also He-Man elements, also these kind of like Honey I Shrunk the Kids. Sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh, I did not. Oh, I did. Apologies. So it has this mixed of like things or tropes that you have seen already, but like I love when how often people say like, oh, what's true originality? Like, perhaps our modern idea of true originality is just mix and match things in ways that they feel necessarily fresh. But anyways, in this the Spider Witch special, which is a special one shot, it's all about talking more about one of the more interesting characters. So Mahmoud Asrar, the inker, yeah, that's how they say it, right? I shouldn't know, but I always say like the guy that draws or the artist, featuring one of the more interesting not only characters but kind of like how do you call it, sections? No, you call them factions. One of the most interesting factions of Bow Wars, which was the whole thing with the spiders and them being like kind of like witches. They were like spider witches and they were so mysterious and oddly sensual. Which brought that the whole Conan the Barbarian vibe and aesthetic, like I don't know. I don't think that makes you kind of like a furry or something because like even though these are supposed to be spiders, they're clearly not spiders. Like it's not like it's a woman with 8 legs. No, it's clearly not a spider. Though in some parts of the main book, I remember her doing like some weird shit with their eyes and everything. But anyways, this is a good kind of like one shot because when you have these new type of universes which are so interesting, you gave them more context and more layers with these one shots. So they won't spoil or they won't move any new story which is supposed to be coming, but they're gonna give you more world building and world crafting. And of course, probably like after the protagonist, this was the other character that you wanted to look for during Bug Wars. So Bug Wars, the Spider Witch special by Image Comics. If you like the first story, you need this world building, and if you didn't like the first story or you haven't read it, well, no. If you haven't read it, you could go read it, and if you didn't like it, then fuck off. You really didn't like it. Why are you gonna read this, right? Next. Supergirl seems that I talk about her every episode, but I just like the character. But now they're releasing this special called "This is Supergirl Next Door," and I'm not particularly a fan of these anthology types of stories. This is an anthology type of book about love and like finding romance and everything. I guess. Well, no, there's still some ways before Valentine's. I don't know why are they doing it now and not during Valentine's. Well, fuck, who knows? But anyways, I'm not necessarily a fan of these anthology books, but you know, I've come to this sort of this position with Supergirl in particular, where I just see it as a fun character. Um, I was sort of stuck in the new 52 Supergirl, and I said it bunch of times, and the idea of her more jaded kind of like persona, being a little bit more cynical, they sort of move that somehow to Power Girl at some point, but now they are both kind of like just quirky fun characters. Maybe that's what it is. And considering the existence of Women of Tomorrow, the graphic novel, which is gonna be the base for the next Supergirl movie. How is it? How is the Supergirl movie, the one in the DCU, gonna be called? It's not gonna be called Woman of Tomorrow. I think it's just Supergirl, right? But anyways, I guess I'm all about the fun now for this character, and also this made me think about how I'm not really that much of a fan of quote unquote like romance in some of these years, and sometimes I feel they are like I was looking for this word. Are they shoehorn? It's a great expression. That means that something is forced into some other things, right? Like romance is shoehorned into these characters, like forced into them. Like they don't really need to have a romance story arc, and many of them often don't. That's why I think we hold on to some of them. Like I don't know, the Fantastic Four in Marvel. Like you never want Sue and Reed to be apart. In DC, for me, more than Lois and Clark, to me is Poison Ivy and Harley Quinn. Like you have these characters who are like kind of like a personification of love in these universes. And I don't know. Last time they did something with Supergirl, it felt so strange. And curiously enough, the same happened with Power Girl. It's like, like they're girls and they're supposed to be in love. I think that is kind of like a really subtle and a really delicate point for these characters, especially for I don't know, when they fall in love is so random. And now I'm going into the whole love tangent. You see, that's why this book interested me. So this is Supergirl Next Door, a love anthology by DC, if you are interested in that. Next, more DC. So I mentioned the current run of Detective Comics, The Courage That Kills, where Batman has been infected by this kind of like virus that's gonna kill him. But what I want to mention is not that I find really interesting like the new bad guys or like the plot itself. Uh, for some reason, even though I don't think story-wise or rhythm-wise it has actually happened, for some reason I'm feeling the stress in this book. What I like the most about it, already in part 5, and we already have seen Jonathan Crane and the whole aspects of fear being challenged kind of like inside the lore of the book and the Batman universe itself. What I like about it, and this is almost the end of it, I think there's like 2 or 3 which also supports my position. I felt the stress. I do. I felt the pressure on the character, like, dude, like I'm gonna die, like I gotta do something, because that is not a common thing for Batman he don't lose his shit. And it's not like in this story that he has lost his shit, but they managed to do it somehow where you are really trapped into the idea of him running out of time. So you are looking forward to the next issue, like, oh man, Batman's gonna die. And when they achieve that in comics, in a world where we know nobody dies, and especially not Batman, in a world where that's the case, I think it's an important achievement to achieve that sort of feeling on your book. Plus that kind of like COVID armor is pretty cool. Can we still call this like a COVID metaphor, like 4 or 5 years after that? Can we call it that? The COVID story. A virus of fear. Maybe they were meant to release this during COVID and they didn't, out of sensibility. But it's a highly contagious virus based out of fear that kills you. I don't know. Pretty COVID-ish if you ask me. Next. There's a little bit update on the Infernal Hulk, one of the most hyped books for me and like mostly everybody. So the Infernal Hulk is going around basically recruiting monsters and abominations, and he's like literally immortal, and he controls the I forgot the entity that he absorbed to control all of what do you say, like the monster world, the abominations. It's been fun, but it hasn't been as interesting yet. We're on issue 3, and sorry, issue 3, not issue 3, issue 3. And we are getting into the nitty gritty of it, which in the case of the Hulk, of course, it's always Hulk and Banner. What's the relationship? When and during the past great run, we introduced the fact the mindscape of Bruce Banner, and we introduced the whole dynamic of the multiple personalities and the demons that lived inside of this mindscape, which has taken a personality of its own. It's not only Bruce Banner's mind. That's kind of like the interesting thing they have done with the Hulk over the years. It's not only just this one guy that turns into this other guy. They share a space. It's almost like an alternative, no, not alternative, a parallel reality. And it has grown over the years with Banner and with Betty Ross, who is also coming back. Like, it has deepened. Curiously enough, to me, it brings me all the way back to Ang Lee's The Hulk. A movie that not that many people liked, but if you think about it, that was Ang Lee's whole shtick. That was Ang Lee's focus in that movie. How Banner and the Hulk, they are this sort of like one person in a constant like strive against themselves. This fight that happens inside the Hulk's mind, and in all of us, in all of our minds. Like, it's not like you don't need to be a schizophrenic to have multiple voices in your head, or like, we all have our own inner voices. You call them however you want to call them, but we have our own mindscapes. So the way they are playing with that with the Hulk, or they did in the previous volume, was giving the character this so much character, like character giving character. They gave him so much his own world, basically. You have all of these comic book characters, and they have universes of characters and places, literally like universes of content. In the case of the Hulk, it's all in his mindscape. And after the introduction of the mindscape, it's almost, to me, impossible for the Hulk to come back as a hero. He can't be a hero no more. And the whole jump between the previous volume of Monster Hulk and this Infernal Hulk has to come down to this deepening and kind of like a growing of the Hulk's mindscape. It's pretty interesting. The first 2 issues were like just introducing him as this OP Hulk, but now we're getting into the nitty gritty of it. So that's an update of the Infernal Hulk. It's issue 3, so it's not too late to jump into it. Infernal Hulk issue 3. Next. This could have been my book of the week, but it's not, because they have been hyping it so much. So Joshua Williamson's Iron Man is finally here. And we already know by many synopses that we have Madame Mask kind of like trying to recreate Iron Man. It's giving a lot of I think it's Matt Fraction's run, and it's given the original scenes and like all of those Iron Man stories that have to do with the fact that Tony is obsessed with with weapons, right? So they seem to be tapping once more into that vein of Tony Stark feeling the guilt of being like the world's most prolific arms dealer and arms creator. So we have that is the main story. Madame Mask trying to recreate the Iron Man and Tony trying to stop it. So it has a lot of that. Was it the 5 original scenes? Where like when they had the story where they stole Tony's designs and terrorists were using them. It's not something new, but let's see what a spin-off is Joshua Williamson gonna give it. We have a new armor, like I don't know why the captions say a bold new era begins here. Like I don't know, man. As a bold person, I resent that statement. Like, how bolder can you get? Maybe they're gonna make Tony bold. Imagine that. That would be a bold new era. It's too stuck now. I'm bold. But anyways, Iron Man has been one of my favorite Marvel characters since I was a kid. So I was gonna keep an eye on it, and I've always said that to me, the more interesting Iron Man stories need to have something to do with the suit and technology. That's there, right? That's their character. So let's see what they do. Also, we are kind of like in a renaissance of Madame Mask. If you haven't noticed, I feel like, I mean, he's in Venom as well. Venom was it's a kind of like high profile book, even though it has had its own criticism attached to it. But anyways, Joshua Williamson's Iron Man is finally here. Me, for once, are deeply curious. Though, man, I think I'm gonna keep complaining about the whole waste of the Mysterion armor for a long time. The Mysterion armor was the last armor that Tony did before this book, and it was based on this new metal called Mysterium that I think the mutants discovered on Mars or something. Okay, whatever. Iron Man, issue 1. Next. So this all-in special called "The Kids Are All Fight." That's a funny word. I think last week it was that I mentioned John Ken, and in this special they are, as the title implies, they're bringing kind of like the second generation heroes, a bunch of them, into the KO event. So it's funny how they did it, because they took basically an A tier second gen, who is John, and then they took kind of like a B tier second gen, who is Cassandra, Batgirl, and then they took a bunch of like C and D listers. We have Roy Harper's daughter, Judy Garrick, Jeffrey Holt, who has the funkiest costume ever. So basically, it's kind of like, as I said, they are using this really important kind of like event to feature these characters, none of whom are part of the event, like of the big KO event, who is almost in like the semi-finals. Like it went by really fast. Ultimately, they have tried to do more with John, but I do think it's a character that is just floating around. I think he had this kind of like run where he was part of this, not a secret, kind of like secret Avengers group, but it was kind of like a secretive group when he was in a relationship with this other kid, and it had Dreamer in it. Like it was a kind of like a mysterious, kind of like conspiracy spy sort of thriller book. But John himself, I think he's kind of like in a transition moment. But what I like about this book, in theory, and why am I recommending it and what piqued my interest, is that I think John has the capacity of sort of updating Superman values, and I feel like whenever he's featured, they use that to highlight that personality in him. I hope they bring a Cassandra, talking about Burger, that it's a little bit updated with what's going on on her solo book. I hope they do. But man, if this book is only about like John sort of highlighting his updated Superman values and bringing all of these other B tier, D tier characters into the spotlight, if it's all for that, I'm down for that. Just a little bit. I think this is parentheses. I think this is what one shots are for. Let's highlight something particular, then even though it doesn't have a place right now on the main books, let's just remind you of how great these characters could be for a brief moment. And if you're not gonna put them in the main unit, in the main event, just have them have this one shot where they can highlight their ongoing personalities and all they can do. And John Kent, do I want a John Kent solo book? I don't know, man. I really don't. But I like to be reminded of his existence. So therefore, KO, the kids are all fight special. Next. This is an update on Sorcerer Supreme. I recommended issue 1 and I gotta say it's weird. I mentioned back then that between Wanda's Sorcerer Supreme and Wiccan's what was the name of the book? Like something about the Witch's Road. I'm like, okay, they are doing things with Marvel Magic side. And they kind of did. Wiccan's book has turned into something more personal, which is okay. It doesn't necessarily exclude the fact that it can have more bigger repercussions. And Sorcerer Supreme was just strange. As I said in that occasion, like it seems that just like Wanda just like just ran into the Sorcerer Supreme title. It's a title, right? Yeah, the title of Sorcerer Supreme. It seems that she just ran into it, and actually it was like that. So the story of is that this kind of like a parliament of the Vishanti and all of those entities that sort of choose the Sorcerer Supreme, they actually don't agree with Wanda being the Sorcerer Supreme, so they throw Agatha Harkness at her, like the Sorcerer Supreme. It's weird, but I think that above everything, what they have been trying to do is like buff up this new hot sexy Agatha Harkness, which I find kind of like strange, you know. Before the Marvel series and everything, Agatha Harkness was just this character, like a secondary character, and they made her hot for some reason. And I mean, I know which reason they did it, but it feels just strange. Haha, no pun intended. Anyways, I think there are, and I'm recommending this story in case people didn't pick up the first one. I'm recommending this story because I still think it has potential. That potential be what I mentioned before. It's a Marvel Magic side of things, kind of like not rework, not update, but at least a commentary. I don't know. At the very, very least, excuse me for being this shallow, but at the very least, it has hot girls. hot girls fighting, as they would say in Seinfeld, cat fight. Dude, why would you make Agatha Harkness hot and then feature her against Scarlet Witch? You know, like this is not the main thing about the book, but it certainly is not something they are not aware of. They are not unaware of what they're doing. That's Sorcerer Supreme. Next, another sort of update. I don't know what they're doing with this one. It was the end 2099 was all about the can you say the ending of the future, the end of the future? I don't know. Like the story was all supposed to be about in the year 2099 having this kind of like a invasion from the year 3099 and having this introducing the big Spider-Man from 3099. And this is a strange update because from that one to this one, they are like, okay, now what we're gonna do is gonna do like a It's not multiverse when it's all about time, right? Right? Like if you have different timelines fighting amongst themselves, is this a multiversal fight or a timeversal fight? It gets weird. But the book from issue 1 to issue 2 became this strange free for all brawl between different timelines. They're bringing Miles Morales into the fray, and Spider Man 2099 against Spider Man 3099. I don't know. Like, I read the synopsis, right? And the synopsis was all about somebody's gonna die. and and I'm like, okay. But you know that in this case, they're gonna die in kind of like a, you know, how can you say it? Like, if you die in the future, right? I'm in this timeline, right? Like, okay, I'm like Spider-Man, and then I'm from the future, not from the present, and that guy from the future dies. That doesn't mean that the guy in the present is gonna die. So you can make it so the version of the future dies and keep going in the present. The fact that the guy in the future dies doesn't mean anything for the guy in the present, because the guy in the present can still change the fact that the guy in the future is gonna die. You know? You know? And did you understand that? So basically, this book morphed into this crazy free for all fight between characters in different points of their timelines. It's some weird shit. And still, the main selling point of it is like, who the fuck is Spider-Man 3099? You know? It's crazy, man. But it's all good old comic book craziness. So I'm not promising, personally, I don't think this is gonna be relevant at all. Perhaps for like the 2099 universe super fans, which I'm not. I never really care for it. But it's curious enough. It's comic book crazy enough. So, yeah. The end 2099. That's an update. And last but not least, the book of the week, undisputed book of the week. Man, Absolute Satana is coming in, and they've been hyping this character for months. The design looks incredible. It looks like badass. It looks with attitude. It has like it even has the, how you call it, that the net, those like fishnets. Yeah, fishnets. It has the trademark fishnets, and she is supposed to be one of the, speaking of magic, one of the biggest magic wielders of the Absolute Universe. So after Absolute Wonder Woman 15, where we saw Diana meeting Absolute Batman, Absolute Bruce, we have this new thread about magic. So a bigger part of I've also mentioned this before. A bigger part of Absolute Wonder Woman, even more than in regular Wonder Woman, is magic. Absolute Wonder Woman is really magic based. And the new story arc that starts here in issue 16, as the really tiny caption reads on the cover, in this new story arc, it's all gonna be about magic. So Diana is already settled on Earth. She has this really strange role of hero, but she's grounded on suspicion, and I think that is the base of the whole kind of like hero, like meta human versus regular human in the Absolute Universe, in this really kind of like simplified version of the DC universe. It's you can even, if it helps to understand, is straight up what happens in Superman, the latest movie Superman. It seems that the main storyline that's gonna transcend it is that dynamic between metahumans and regular humans, but the roles of metahumans in society, basically, right? Which is something that has been done in comics a lot. But since we have way too many superheroes and way too many fantasy, sometimes we forget. We forget, like in basically inside these fantastic universes, most of them, their versions, they already accept the existence of metahumans. Like they have done that several times on DC in the role with society and everything. Not so much in Marvel. In Marvel, it just seems like okay, like aliens and superheroes, and like yeah, it's already a fact of life. So doing this again, this soft reset again in the absolute universe, it also comes with a little bit of soft reset of magic. Do I hope, honestly, that maybe here in Absolute Wonder Woman we will have an active and kind of like a important presence of introduction, or like which other word do I have? Basically, will Absolute John Constantine appear? That's what I'm trying to say. I was trying to hype it up and like to make it sound really exciting, but like fuck it. Will Absolute John Constantine appear here? I don't know. But anyways, I made no secret that Ultimate. Fuck, even me, I'm confusing Ultimate with Absolute. I made no secret that the Absolute universe has been great. Absolute Wonder Woman has been one of the greatest, and now we are deepening into the side of magic. And if we have this soft reset, this soft foundation of how society deals with metahumans, now we're gonna have how normal society deals with magic. Absolute Wonder Woman has had Diana come into the real world with no care. Basically, she's been really careless because she's new, right? She's not like regular Wonder Woman. She doesn't know the impact of what she does, so she comes like in a really innocent way, brandishing magic and doing amazing stuff. And of course, probably Absolute Satana is gonna come and gonna be like, "Yo, girl, like, chill," you know. You can't just go around brandishing magic, because these average Joes, these regular people, are not used to it. You know? So it's gonna be an interesting dynamic for the magic side of the absolute universe. And look at that absolute Satana, man. Looks so fucking cool. I feel like they have struggled with Satana's design over the years. One of the kind of I never thought Satana was an over-sexualized character, like the fishnets and everything. Yeah, I know, but she was supposed to be a stage magician. So it was her attire, and I don't want to say she wasn't over-sexualized, but like it was a magician's attire, and they have struggled with updating her. They have had many versions. They put pants on her. I don't know. They move the fishnets to the hands or whatever. But like to me, this design here, they nailed it. They absolute, no pun intended, nailed it. Artist Hayden Sherman, they just nailed it, man. The punk vest, I think that has a different, like a shrug, I think it's called. The chains, the boots, they're like so punk. The trademark fishnet, I don't know, man. I'm just in awe, in absolute awe, no pun intended again, by not only introducing an awesome character, not only updating her looks, not only bringing her into like a really interesting concept, I mean context, not only for the main character, which is Absolute Wonder Woman, but for the whole Absolute universe at large. It's great. Last week I talked about perfect setups. This is one of those. Perfect setup, and like if you are into it, if you are into the Absolute universe at all, And Absolute Wonder Woman, man. Did I mention that Absolute Wonder Woman's arm is not real, it's magic? Anyways, that's my book of the week, Absolute Wonder Woman issue 16, the introduction of Absolute Satana. And that's it for the week. It has been, I mean, last week I was really hyped for those books that I called perfect setups. I haven't sink my teeth into any of those. So between that and this week, there's so much to read and there's so much to watch because Wonder Man, the new Marvel series, has been released and it's supposed to be crazy good. Critics are raving about it, and so sometimes I think Marvel shouldn't do that. They shouldn't go like throwing at our faces how critically acclaimed their shit is. How could you not react like with some skepticism to that? It's impossible. It's impossible. Whether you like these characters or not, whether you are a comic book fan or not, whether you are an MCU fan or not, to me, it's absolutely impossible for you to not be skeptical if I offer you this new product and I offer it by telling you this is the best shit you've ever seen. Critics are raving about it. This is so good. This is a 10 out of like a millionth out of 10. How could you not be skeptical? Show me someone who cares even a tiny bit about this, as I said, character, universe, whatever, series. If you don't care at all, it doesn't matter. But if you care even a tiny bit, tell me how is it possible not to be skeptical if I throw you this product in this kind of like effusive manner. This is so good, but we'll see. Anyways, check out the timestamps on the video, enjoy it, read it, and let's all of us escape together. Unless you have the platform and the means to make a change other than with your vote. And if that's your case, stay safe. But just believe in what you believe. And that strength will never fail you. See you next week.